my channel. If you are new here, my name is Khaki, and today I'm going to be exercising some muscles that I have not exercised in a while. In case you didn't know, I used to be a hairdresser professionally. Actually, for 8 years, from age 17 to age 25, I used to cut and color and barber and all that for the general public every single day. I don't do that anymore, but I still love talking about hair. I love helping my friends out. I love recommending products, and I'm still really passionate about trends in the industry and how to properly take care of your hair. There's a lot out there that people just don't know. So I think that the biggest thing here is that, like, in magazines and in advertisements and things like that, we're kind of taught that, like, a product is what we need to solve any particular hair issue that we have. If we have a hair problem, it's because we're not using the right products and we need to go out and spend the money and buy the products, when really a lot of it has to do with sort of like details and finesse of using the tools that we have and making sure that we're kind of like taking the extra care that sometimes isn't being taught to people. Like, I just don't see a lot of stuff in fashion magazines or anything like that where they're telling you the proper way to blow dry your hair or the proper way to flat iron your hair in order to mitigate as much damage as possible. I'm here to kind of probably save you some trouble and some pain and some breakage. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, thing you're probably doing wrong, number one. In my experience, one of the most surprising things that people don't realize that they're doing wrong is that they will forego shampooing their hair for a day and they think that they're doing something good for their hair, but what they're really doing a lot of times is restyling their hair the next morning with heat with alcohol-based products left in it from the day before. So let's say you used a hairspray or a volumizer or something like that that had alcohol in it before you heat styled it the day before, and then the next morning you say, okay, well, everything's probably still fine, I just need to like refresh the style. Or if you've gone and gotten a blowout and then you want to kind of refresh your blowout without getting into all of the, like, you know, chemical reactions and things like that, you've essentially taken something and removed a ton of the moisture out of your hair, and you're going to apply heat to it, which is basically a recipe for split ends and just breaking your hair off. Like, if you think about a plant that hasn't been watered in a while, that's sitting in your house and it's kind of dying because you haven't been paying attention to it and it's really dry and it lacks moisture, are you gonna just go sit it out in the sun? Like, don't you think that that's gonna make things a lot worse for that plant? Probably. You would want to what? Add water. That is my first tip here. If you're going to be styling your hair the next morning and it had alcohol-based product in it the day before, just get yourself a little spray bottle and just re-wet that section before you restyle it. So if you slipped on a section and it's sitting weird on your face or something like that, go to the root, just hit that section with a little bit of that just regular water, and what that's gonna do is it's going to rehydrate the product that's sitting in your hair, because that product had to have alcohol in it in order to dry really quickly, but now it's completely dry, and in order for it to reactivate, it needs to be wet again. If you just hit it with heat, like with a blow dryer or a flat iron, you're just asking for disaster. So be kind to your hair, baby it, think about these things before you do them. If you think about that too hard, it feels wrong. Okay, next is this. I have allowed this to happen in order to create a visual aid for you guys, but this is actually my nightmare. We spend a lot of money on our brushes, and in this case, this is a ceramic and ion thermal brush. I have several of these. I love these. But the issue here is that the actual brush itself is coated with ceramic, which is supposed to protect your hair from heat, close your cuticle, just do a lot of really nice things in the action of being heat activated and being against your hair. But guess what? It can't do any of that if all of your hair is built up on the brush, because your hair isn't making contact, well, your hair is, but the hair on your head isn't making contact with the actual good stuff, the things that are kind of built in here to help you. So I want to show you guys the simple and easy way that any hairdresser would do this. They would love to sell you those things on the internet that are like $1 or something like that. They're like these stupid little, like, rakes. They're like little finger rakes that you know, use to take hair out of your brushes. Like, if you've got a regular flat brush, you can just peel it out of there, but if you got one of these, you just take it with like the wide end of your comb and it'll just kind of roll out. You guys don't know how satisfying this is for me right now. And once you get it started, it'll pretty much just pull off in one big ring. Ugh, look at all the dried product coming out of there. And now your hair can actually make contact with the ceramic that you paid to have on your very nice round brush, so that when you're styling it, your hair is actually smooth and getting all the benefits of what it is that you paid for. All right guys, number 3, and I know we just talked about how water is a good thing to help protect your hair from heat, but it can also be kind of a hindrance if it's too much water. So that's why I suggested getting a spray bottle, is because you can kind of control the little bit of dampness. The ideal amount of water in your hair to start actually blow drying is about 2/3 of the way dry. So the easiest way to think about this is if you've got a ton of water in your hair and you put heat on it, and guys, these hot tools that we're using, they get crazy hot. We'll talk about that in a minute. You are actually boiling the water that is on your hair. You want to minimize that process as much as possible, so blow drying your hair directly from straight out of the shower wet is putting like 10 times more stress on your hair than you need to. So if you're in a hurry, what you should do is kind of what we call rough drying, and that just means kind of like lifting the hair off the scalp in the places that the water kind of like needs to evacuate from, and just sort of like gently blow drying around your head, not really in any pointed particular way. And then once you've got it to about 2/3 dry, maybe 3/4 of the way dry, you can go in with a round brush, put your blow dryer up to maybe a higher setting for certain spots, but mainly that's going to be the ideal kind of process to make sure that you're minimizing damage, and so that you don't just like exhaust yourself when you're blow drying your hair, because so many of us get pissed because we like start breaking a sweat when we're trying to blow our hair out, and a lot of times it's because we spend too long blow drying our hair, and it doesn't need to be like that. You can either wait or just rough dry your hair to get it to a very close to dry, like damp state, and then you can actually do all the really specific kind of detail work with your round brush and getting your hair exactly where you want it. Okay, this is an aside, this isn't like a separate tip, but coming from someone who has pretty fine hair and someone who did hair for a really long time, your hairdresser is going to use really high heat settings on you because they're on a schedule. And a lot of these salon quality blow dryers get up really hot because they're meant for professionals. Does that make sense? If you can get away with it, use a lower setting. You do not need to have the hottest setting on all of your tools, especially if you don't have really stubborn, really coarse hair. If you have maybe outrageously curly hair and you want to wear it really straight sometimes, yeah, you're gonna need something pretty hot. Hopefully that style will last you several days after you do that, so that you don't need to be doing that every single day. But for someone like me who has very thin, very fine hair, I can get away with the medium setting on my blow dryer most of the time, and the like 280-degree setting on the flat iron. It does not need to be crazy. Okay, thing number 4 that you probably are doing wrong. If you're the kind of person who, like me, likes to have your hair kind of frame your face, but you have cowlicks that if it dries on its own, your hair kind of lifts away from your face, and you're kind of a facey face kind of person to begin with, and it's not the most flattering look in the world, you are probably always kind of trying to fight to get your hair to kind of like go forward or some other way than it wants to go. A lot of what I saw when I did hair, especially because like the side swept bang was just happening at that point, was girls trying to flat iron their cowlicks away. It doesn't work like that. So if I had to draw a distinction between the power of a blow dryer and the power of a flat iron, a blow dryer has so many more capabilities than a flat iron does. A flat iron is really not for most things that you need done to your hair other than making it straight or sometimes making it ribbon curled if like you prefer that look. The whole idea behind a flat iron is to change the way the shaft and ends of your hair are behaving. So if this is your hair, this is the shaft, these are the ends, and that's basically the only part you should really be touching with a flat iron. If you're trying to change something about the direction that your roots are going, you need to do it with a blow dryer, and you need to do it on wet hair. So if you've already gotten your hair completely dry and you are unhappy with the way that one of your cowlicks is laying, you need to re-wet that piece of hair, go back in with your blow dryer and fix it, because all you're going to do with a flat iron is give yourself the same cowlick except with straight ends, and it's going to be very frustrating and it's going to break your hair off, and it actually doesn't work. I've seen a lot of girls, especially when I was in like middle school, high school, was when the flat iron first started happening and everybody was like, I can finally have straight hair. And like, honestly, like the flat iron, it just gives such an artificially straight look for so many people who aren't meant to have really, really straight hair that it's almost not really worth the amount of damage that it does to their hair. But a lot of what I saw girls do was they would throw their hair back as kind of like a, you know, like a lazy way of doing their hair that day, but then they would style the hairs that kind of like didn't go back in a ponytail. So anything that had broken or baby hairs or anything, they would flat iron them. And it is the most bizarre looking thing in the world because you're not getting the roots. And so they might lay down for like a second, but most of the time they just ended up radiating from the girls' faces. Like they looked like the sun, you know, because they just had these like dead straight pieces of hair, but their roots were still cowlicking and curling. And so everything would just go and just like stick straight out from their face. I mean, we all learned the lessons the hard way, right? So if I can offer and impart any advice on conquering cowlicks, it's do it with a round brush. Don't do it with your flat iron. The best way to do this, especially if you've got a cowlick like mine that does like this, and it would be a million times worse if I hadn't already done it. But basically, if I hadn't styled this, my hair comes straight up like this, and it'll sit like that. These do that on the sides too. So the best way to counteract that is not actually to brush underneath it, it's to brush against it like that. And that breaks that curl pattern and gets your bangs to lay down. So just a little word to the wise, that's how you get those things to kind of stay over, and hopefully I save you a little bit of trouble. All right guys, and finally, tip number 5, there are very few things that you should actually expect a flat iron to do. I have this baby here, it is not on. I'm just going to be demonstrating a couple of motions here because I want to show you guys the rights and wrong ways to do this. One shape that you can be doing with your flat iron is in order to kind of put some curve in the mid shaft to end, you can tug just a little bit that way, once through, and it will kind of give a nice curve to the hair. You can take anything here, kind of grab a section, slowly go all the way down the shaft, and it'll give you that Jennifer Aniston dead straight look. You can use it to ribbon curl if you want. Of course, I don't have this on, but it's just kind of like a grab, twist, pull situation, and then you kind of do like that and it'll create a curl. The thing I see the most, and I had client after client who came in and they would have just like one side of their hair completely broken off, and I was like, can you just show me how you style your hair? And then they would go, I saw hairdressers do it. And I was like, God, what do you think is happening? You're taking a giant branding iron that is clamping down on your hair and you're going over each section of hair like 18 times. Like you're putting so much stress on your hair. The correct speed to be flat ironing your hair is kind of like this. You only have to do it once, it's going to straighten your hair, and it's not gonna rip your hair out. The whole idea, I would say, is to try and find the break even of the temperature that you can get away with having, like the lowest temperature that you can get away with, going that slowly on your hair and getting it straight in one go. That's gonna be kind of your perfect equation. So those are my 5, quite passionate, I apologize. But if you guys enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you learned something. Let me know down below if any of this is like awesome and surprising to you. And if you guys wanna keep hanging out with me, I would love that. Please go ahead and subscribe down below. Hit the little bell so that you guys get my little notifications when I post new videos. I wouldn't want you guys to miss anything new. I got a lot of videos coming up. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I love you, and I will talk to you as soon as possible. Bye!